Today on the Kristen SuperCrip Milefchik show, I have the distinct honor of interviewing a true American hero, a 9/11 first responder, an activist, the founder of the FealGood Foundation, and an all-around good human, John Feal. Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Kristen SuperCrip Milefchik show. I'm here with John Feal, and I'm so excited. It's funny because he said that he was nervous about tonight, and I've been nervous all day about this. Such an honor to be able to have him on my show today. So, John, I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about your background story. I've watched your interactions on Twitter, and I really like how laid back and down to earth you are. And I know that most people know John as the national hero, 9/11 first responder, but I want to know John as a person, as an average guy, and who you were leading up to that day.
Wow, you hit me with the hard question early. One, thank you for having me because I am truly blessed and humbled to be here. And I was more nervous to talk to you. Yeah, I've done about 3,000 interviews, and that was probably the hardest question somebody's ever asked me. Let me just start off by saying I'm always a little reluctant to talk about myself. Only because I don't like that kind of attention, especially when you're passionate about an issue. When you make an issue about yourself, it deters from the actual issue you're fighting and advocating for. I know I have a responsibility in the 9/11 community and now in the veteran community, and really for anybody who can't fight or advocate for themselves. I just got involved the last couple of days in a bill up in Albany in New York State to ban puppy mills, the Inhumane Act against dogs, cats, and rabbits. So, listen, I'm 13 for 13 in getting legislation passed, and I hate failing. So, I don't need 9/11 to know right from wrong. I needed 9/11 to show everybody how my mother raised me. And, I lost my mother in 2006, but my mother was my mother, my father, my best friend, my confidant, my mentor, my everything. It still stings to talk about her. But, when I was growing up, I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I was out of the house before everybody. At 17 years old, I joined the Army. Not to join the Army and think I was going to make a career out of it, to have fun. I wanted to grow up and be a man, and United States Army makes you become a man really fast. But my mother protected me at an early age, and from the time I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I was taking judo, wrestling, all sorts of different martial arts, and she trained me to protect. That's the way I was programmed. That's the way I ticked. In high school, I was captain of the wrestling team, and if somebody made fun of the handicap or somebody made fun of the small kids in school, well, they had to deal with me, and I had about 80 fights in high school. And it's not something I'm proud of. It's just something that I was programmed to do. And
maybe you should be a little proud.
My mother, every holiday, especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas, my mother worked in a stationery store. And every year around the holidays, there'd be new people at our house. And I go, Mom, who is this? She goes, oh, they didn't have anybody to spend the holidays with. I invited them over. And then it was every year. So growing up, I only knew to take strangers in, or to talk to somebody less fortunate, or to give of myself. My high school wrestling coach's son was born with Down syndrome. His middle name is John, because I made it my mission to help raise money. And at that time, I'm going to age myself, in 1984, we raised a lot of money for the expenses for my wrestling coach. So 9/11 just gave me a platform. Because I am the worst injury at ground zero during the cleanup and the recovery, I have a platform to say what's right or wrong, or challenge people's humanity. I would rather be working and making a lot of money what I was doing. But I'm here because I got hurt. And at that time, that injury was devastating. But what that injury did was humble me. And I learned a lot about myself, physically and mentally. And while that struggle is 24/7, and while I am usually angry 24/7, I tend to add humor to things, or self-deprecating, or attack it to a point where I make it simple so I can understand an issue, but also those who believe in the issues that we're fighting for, they can understand it. And, I surround myself with a lot of smart people. I'm never the smartest man in the room. I'm not the smartest person on this Zoom interview. And I surround myself with people that believe what I envision. And the only thing I really bring to the table is not to accept no when human life is at stake. Suffering is suffering. I don't, everybody's perception is different. How tall is tall, how fat is fat. To me, suffering is suffering. No American, no child, no hero should suffer when we call ourselves the greatest nation in the world, because that's a little egotistical at best. And I don't always buy into that. And, I don't know anybody more patriotic than me. I served my country in the Army. I served my country in city at Ground Zero. I'm a kidney donor to a complete stranger. So I think I've earned the right to voice what's wrong and what's right.
And that's the true definition of patriotic. I'm glad that somebody understands that.
Well, I think to be a true patriot, you have to give of yourself. You have to give of yourself and not ask for anything in return. Your country is already given for you. Your upbringing by your parents was already given to you. If you were lucky to have two parents. But basically, as Americans, a lot's given to you. So as a patriot, you got to give back to your country, and you got to give back to the American people without asking for anything in return, without seeking fortune, without seeking fame. I always thought my 15 minutes of whatever you guys call it would end, and I thought my shelf life would expire. But 16 years later, I'm still doing what I'm doing, and I'm unfortunately getting bigger and stronger. And I don't want that kind of power.
Well, I think sometimes inadvertently, the people that are the most humble and are not asking for it are the ones that are going to get it, because they're the most compelling and they draw the most people in. And I already know that about you. In the short time that we've been talking, I can understand why that's happened. So.
But even so, on Twitter, I get a lot of messages. I can't believe it's you. I can't believe you friended me. I don't like the word follow, so I make sure everybody says friend when they're around me.
Right.
And I was like, yeah. And they're like, oh, I saw you with Jon Stewart. Oh, I saw you with, everything's Jon Stewart than John Feal. I get it. And I said, yeah. And, some people have people handle their social media accounts. But, I do my own Twitter, I do my own Facebook, and I do my own LinkedIn, and they all serve their own purposes for different, to disseminate information or to voice my opinion on something. And a lot of times on Twitter, I'm being witty or snarky or a pain in the butt. I've been suspended once permanently. But that's because I was challenging those who are in the position to help and those who have power and don't use it in the right way. Twitter's not the real world. They can't suspend me in the real world, because in the real world, I'm a lot more powerful than I am on Twitter.
Yeah.
I don't even have that little blue check mark thing, which I still to this day don't know how a lot of people get those blue check marks, because it seems to me if you had a blue check mark, you should be using it towards the less fortunate. You know, the way I'm talking to you is the way I'll talk to, listen, I've met presidents before. This is the way I'm talking. I'm never going to change for anybody, and I wouldn't expect anybody to change for me. And while I know I'm not for everybody, I'm always going to be real and authentic, and that's what I'm most proud of.
Well, that's as much as anybody could ask for, and that's what I wish more people in positions of power would be, if they would think like that. But I'm going to get to my next question. 9/11, everyone experienced it that was alive and conscious to some extent. I remember the day clearly, what I was doing and where I was and all of that, even though I didn't know anybody directly that was involved. But I can't imagine the difference of actually being there, seeing it, seeing what was happening to people in the aftermath of it and the immediate aftermath of it. I was going to ask how that experience changed you, but you kind of already described that it didn't change you. It just gave you a platform to do what you were already doing.
Yeah.
You want to know what being there and seeing that and being around the other people that experienced that, what do you take from that?
So let me answer the first. The person you were on 9/10/01, 9/11, and 9/11. If you were an asshole on 9/10/01, you were a bigger asshole after 9/11. If you were a good person on 9/10/01, 9/11 made you a better person. I'm convinced of that. I meet so many people in the 9/11 community. I'm just convinced. You know, we're going on the 20-year anniversary in 6 months. If you still think the way you did 20 years ago, you've missed 20 years of your life.
Yeah.
That makes me so sad that people have wasted 20 years of their life with so much negativity and so much hate and so much finger pointing, and that makes me sad. As for my 5.5 days there before I was horribly injured, I can block out my injury. I can block out everything I saw, and nobody's programmed. No cop, no firefighter, no military, no FBI agent, CIA, ATF. Everybody was there at Ground Zero of the Pentagon at Shanksville. Nobody's programmed to wake up in the morning and see that kind of devastation, the carnage, the destruction. Nobody.
Yeah.
But as time went on, I've been able to block that out. And maybe one day it will catch up to me and it will just hit me in the back of the head. But what I can't block out is the smell. The smell of 9/11 will haunt me for the rest of my life. And that's probably why I don't get a lot of sleep. But also what I remember, I try to remember the good. I try to remember seeing grown men and women, but men with mustaches the size of poodles and tattoos on their neck with muscles. And trust me, I got a lot of muscles and tattoos under here. And to see them hug and cry was the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed. Because these are strangers. Nobody knew, everybody's just, working frantically. And those are the things I'm going to choose to remember. You lay in bed for 3 days and you feel like you missed the world. Oh my God, my friends went out without me. I missed the sweets, whatever. I spent 11 weeks in the hospital staring at a ceiling with tubes in and out of my body, fighting for my life. That was a game changer and a life changer. That made me appreciate what I have and what I don't need, and what I want to do with the rest of my life. You know, when I got out of the hospital, I went from 185 pounds to 120 pounds. I never made it home. I went to my mother's apartment. And I said, Mom, I got to get help. She goes, yeah, you're going to therapy tomorrow. And I said, no, I got to get help. There's something wrong up here. And I did EMDR for 2.5 years, and that saved my life. I wouldn't be here today. And I'm not saying I would kill myself. I'm saying I wouldn't be here doing the FealGood Foundation and being a professional pain in the ass. But that really saved me. You know, since 2005, I haven't taken a pill for my post-traumatic. I'm running my foundation and helping people. And, you know, I was diagnosed by 4 doctors with post-traumatic. They told me I was batshit crazy, right? You know, there's, oh, this guy's off the charts. He's, you know, blah, blah, blah. He'll be a destructive in the workforce. They got that right. But, you know, on top of that, I've had surgeries in 14 out of the 20 years since 9/11. You know, I've had 41 surgeries, and about 35 of them are responsible from 9/11. So I understand when people say, oh, you don't know what I'm going through. No, I do. I do. I live it every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had an NYPD ESU officer call me today. And NYPD, you know, everybody knows who they are. So when we're in trouble, we call the NYPD. But when the NYPD's in trouble, they call ESU. And these are the best of the best. These are the trained, highly skilled, Herculean police officers. And the man calls me, and he goes, I just want to thank you. And I said, well, for what? He goes, I got 4 months to live. And he goes, you helped me get into the program. You gave me a fighter chance. It's going to get me a financial award that I'll be able to leave behind for my family. And I was just dumbfounded. And I don't cry often, but he made me cry. Hence why today I'm probably more emotional than others.
Wow, that's incredible. Is there a specific point after 9/11 that the activism began, or was it a gradual culmination of?
No. So when I was going to therapy and healing myself the best I could, I started going to support groups. And then I was meeting other 9/11 responders. And while I had a physical injury from an horrific accident, these people had invisible diseases, COPD, cancer, asthma, upper and lower restrictive airway diseases, respiratory issues. And a lot of them were losing their jobs, they were losing their houses, they were losing everything. And I wasn't the FealGood Foundation yet, because that didn't happen until a couple of years later. And I just became a shoulder to lean on, and it helped me deal with my own issues. But then my mother was diagnosed with cancer. So now I'm juggling helping people, my mother. And then, and I don't tell this story often, probably about 8 to 12 times I told this story. And if I cry, I apologize. I was coming home from therapy, and it was one of those days where I did physical therapy. I had to learn how to walk again, because I was dying to learn how to golf again, because I was an avid golfer. And in my mind, I was the world's greatest athlete, and nothing was going to stop me from golfing again. So after a day of physical and mental therapy, I stopped at McDonald's, which I don't need anymore, thank you. I had a number 2 with a Diet Coke, which makes no sense. And I'm sitting there, feeling sorry for myself, pondering life's, what am I going to do? My mother's dying. And in walks a man and his 2 daughters. And I'm already done. I'm just sitting there. And I'm playing with my straw and sucking on the ice. And it was empty. And they could have sat anywhere in McDonald's, but they had to sit next to me, which made no sense. Why sit next to a stranger when the whole place was empty? So this man and his 2 daughters sit down with me. And now one daughter was normal as can be. And the other daughter was severely handicapped. To the point where she couldn't talk. And she could only blurt out noises. And they sat down next to me. And then the handicapped daughter is interacting with I would assume the older daughter, but probably about a year or two. And the father's helping both of them. He opened up their Happy Meal, their toy, and opened up their meals. But that was it. That's where it stopped. And then I watched this kid, happy as can be, smiling, laughing. But watching her try to get her mouth over the straw to have a sip while she fought to have a French fry. And yet her and her sister were acting like nothing was wrong. And I'm sitting there going, my Lord, I'm feeling sorry for myself because I lost half a foot. My mother's dying. And this kid was born without a choice and is living it up and having the best time of her life.
Mm-hmm.
Then I left with my tail between my legs, embarrassed, went home, took a shower, smacked myself on the side of the head, and I said, don't you ever complain again. And, a year later, I had to bury my mother. I started my foundation. And the foundation was really just to put a Band-Aid on a machine gun wound, to put food on people's tables, to pay their utilities, to put put gas in their car to get to chemotherapy appointments. And then one thing led to another, and I helped pass a small bill called the Walsh Amendment in 2005, and I tasted the blood, and I got hooked on it. And then for the next 5 years, I walked the halls of Congress 100 times to get the 9/11 Health and Compensation Act passed the first time. Then 5 years later, the second time, and then 4 years later, the third time. And in between that, there was 10 other bills that we helped get passed in New York, in D.C., in New Jersey, and one in Michigan.
Yeah. Tell a little bit, because for my viewers that don't know, I am in Detroit, and I'm a Michigander, and we were talking very briefly before the video started, and John asked me where I was from, and I said Detroit. And he said he was in Detroit in 2016. You want to tell us a little bit about what you were doing in Detroit? Because I like this story.
Yeah, so first let me tell you another story.
Okay.
Back in the mid-'90s, me and my high school buddies, my best friends, we took turns every year going back and forth from Penn State and Michigan football games.
Oh,
so
no. Okay.
We would rent a Winnebago, and somebody would be the designated driver, and we'd all chip in, and that person was not allowed to drink. And the one year we went to Michigan, we were those guys that were throwing snowballs that they had to stop the game. But some of my friends went to Michigan and some went to Penn State, and it was just a fun rivalry to go to. But the state of Michigan is so cool. So in 2015, after we got our bill passed, the firefighter union in Michigan called me, and they said, Mr. Feal, and I said, John, and they said, would you come to Michigan? And I said, for, am I in trouble? And they like, no, we want you to help us pass a bill. I said, well, what's the bill? And they said, we want a cancer presumption bill for firefighters. I said, yeah, when do you need me there? And they're like, well, how much is it going to cost us? I said, I'll do it for free. I said, well, let us pay your flight. I said, no, I'll be there. They're like, well, let us get your hotel. I said, no, I'll take care of that too. But the only thing I demand is that we get to do it our way, and we're not for everybody. And it's like, that's why we're calling you, man. We know how you operate. So I took 3 firefighters from the city of New York, and we went to Michigan. And when we got there, before I got there, I told the union to have all the firefighters from Michigan to meet us at the Capitol and bring their kids. So when we got there, we had everybody hold hands and circle the Capitol, holding hands. Don't let anybody out. And we went in, and we met with Governor Snyder. And after a passionate conversation with the governor, we came out and said, you guys will have a bill pass sometime in the next few weeks. The bill passed the following day.
Amazing, and amazing that you could stomach a passionate conversation with Snyder.
All elected officials put their pants on the same way as us. there are so many Americans that believe in a cause, and so many Americans that their heart is in the right place and want to make a difference. But then they see how our elected officials on TV or on Twitter, and they get dismayed and they get disgusted and they get repulsed. I have the mindset of, this person works for me. I pay this person's salary. The chairs that they sit in, I pay for. The computers that they use, I pay for. They work for me.
Right, yes.
You know, and, you know, in the early 2000s, when we were trying to get a bill passed the first time, you know, they try to demonize us. They try to attack us. And I told everybody, you know, when I first started doing it, it wasn't sexy. And then people started joining me. I said, if you want to be part of this, you got to wear blinders. You can't come out of character. You have to stay focused. And we got lucky in 2010. We were that little engine that could, but in 2015, we were that big engine that did. And then in 2019, you know, I could email or call or fax anybody saying, I want a meeting with so-and-so. And I got that meeting because they know if they didn't give me that meeting, it's just going to make their life miserable. I have the ability to put one email out there and somebody's phones get blown up to the point where they get no work done. And, you know, a lot of times now, 99% of the time, I'm never going to apologize for the way we did things. But if my mother was alive, she would say, good job, after smacking me in the back of the head, saying, there were a couple of times there you got out of line, son. And she's probably right. You know, I dropped a couple of F-bombs or S-bombs on TV, but it was premeditated for shock and awe to get everybody's attention. Yeah. So I'm never going to apologize for that. You know, in 2011, Senator Rockefeller from West Virginia called Senator Schumer in New York and said, hey, can you get that Feal guy to come back to D.C.? I got a bill that I want to introduce, and I need him to give the Senate the old New Yorker. You know, like I was an assassin or a hitman. And that bill was the interoperability bill, which is now a $15 billion bill that went into effect about 2 or 3 years ago. That that bill, that was the last recommendation made on page 396 of the 9/11 Commission, because on 9/11 everybody's radios failed them. Now, God forbid, it's another terrorist attack, Mother Nature, man-made, whatever the case may be. National law enforcement and firefighters, one switch to be on the same frequency in D.C. Amazing, amazing.
Incredible.
And we got that bill passed.
That's amazing.
So if I add up all the bills, because I'm a numbers guy, I like to crunch numbers, but if I add up all the bills that we helped get passed, it comes out to about $40 billion.
You know, it's a lot of people wouldn't understand how excited I was to talk to you, because while you're very well known, you're not like, you know, celebrity status like a actor, actress, or a rock star or whatever. But the things, the people that I get most excited about are the ones that are able to make change like that, or part of that change at least. I look at the disability activism, and my heroes are people like Judy Heumann and like people that helped lead the 504 sit-in, which got the first civil rights legislation for people with disabilities in America passed. Those sorts of things get me so excited, because it makes me feel like anybody has the ability to make a difference.
Anybody.
And that to me is so much more exciting and inspiring.
Well, it's because
that relates to something that I wanted to ask you about. I really like to compare perspectives, my perspective with the other people that I talk to. I mean, me coming from a position where I've been disabled my whole life, I was born with my disability. I see that ableism is very prevalent in our society. And you know, I feel like because our society is based in capitalism, that the moment that someone is either not considered that to be able to do the same kinds of level of productivity or the same kinds of work as somebody that doesn't have a disability, or if it costs more to take care of them or let them have a better quality of life, to give them the services and resources they need to have a good quality of life, then they're less valued. And because you have now had a lot of experience with being around people that some of are newly disabled and some of them have been disabled for a long time, I wondered how you felt about that. Ableism, do you see that the way society treats people with disabilities is different?
Yeah. So let's just call it for what it is. Able-bodied people are quick to judge. That's just fact. Human beings are judgmental, and anybody who says they're not judgmental is lying. So I'll call bullshit on anybody right there. But here's a fact, and this is what I know. I've been fortunate to work with disabled people. I've been fortunate enough to see disabled people walk the halls of Congress or Albany. And let me tell you, disabled people, no matter the disability, outwork able-bodied people 10 to 1. It's that simple. Because one, most disabled people have a chip on their shoulder. They have to get out of bed to the time they go to bed and prove everybody wrong. So not only are they fighting that, they're also fighting the issues that they're fighting for. So for anybody, my mother raised me to treat everybody the same. Everybody is equal, no matter what, no matter religion, no matter skin color, no matter gender, no matter disability or anything. I will always treat everybody equally 100% until that person proves to me that they're not worthy of me treating them equal. And that usually ends up in the laps of an elected official. But it burns me to see celebrities, and I've met a lot of celebrities over the years, or elected officials, or even athletes who are celebrities, right? To see the influence that they have and the ability that they can actually help others, and they don't. Just because you tweet something doesn't mean you did something. It's not the real world. I keep telling everybody, Twitter or Facebook or LinkedIn, or it's just not the real world.
No.
And you can argue with somebody on the social media and you can let it ruin your day. I just say, have a nice life, bye-bye. But the real world will eat you up if you're not ready for it. I wake up every morning and I see half a foot, and I tell myself every day, I did not come this far to just come this far. I know I got more in me, and I know I want to make a bigger difference. But I will never, ever accept or tolerate anybody who belittles anybody who doesn't fit someone's narrative, opinion, or what they see with their two eyes that they were blessed with. Ever.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with you, and I feel like when you were telling that story before about the two daughters and the father in McDonald's and the disabled ones, that made me think about perspectives. I talk a lot about quality of life and how quality of life is relative. For some people with disabilities, their existence, while it may seem hard for somebody else, is just their existence. That it's just, this is what it's always been, or this is how, we work or whatever. But I think that it's really important that there are people that are willing to say, this person's life is still worth every bit of effort, funding, whatever they need to have the best quality of life that they can.
Absolutely.
Because it seems like to you, their suffering doesn't mean that they don't have every bit of desire to live their life to the fullest that they can live it. As you
Absolutely.
I feel like that the work that you're doing is helping people to be able to do that. People that have been affected by 9/11 in ways that affects their health and everything like that. They still have the will to live. They still have the will to be around as long as possible.
Let me tell you a story. Back in 2019, it feels like 10 years ago because of everything that's happened recently. I asked my guys to come back to DC with me. Now, there's always been a core group of us. And 2010, 2011, 2015, and all of the ones at the state level, depending on how many people I needed. But there's always been a core of 8 to 12 guys. But every time we went to DC, we'd add new people, subtract, whatever. But in 2019, at its height, there was about 40-something of us. And when I sat down with everybody and I said, if you guys want to go to DC, I'll take you. Here's the thing. I helped all of them. Whether it was individually, I helped them get workman's comp, Social Security, their VCF claim. I helped them all individually and collectively. Every single one of them got their VCF award, which is the Victims Compensation Award, which is one half of the James Sedroga Health and Compensation Act. They were all in the World Trade Center Health Program getting free health care. And many of them became millionaires because of their cancers. And many of them could have just said, no, John, I want to live the rest of my life in peace. But not one person said no. They all said, I want to go with you. Let's finish what we started. And let's give back to those who weren't as fortunate as us. Now, some of them even died during our trips to DC. Some of them were there on a Monday, and the following week when we went back, they were in hospice. But they got into the programs. They made sure their families were taken care of. And because of their hard work, tens of thousands of people across our country were taken care of. And to me, that's the greatest honor ever, that not one person said no. And to this day, I thank them all the time. And they're always like, oh my God, John, you're the blah, blah, blah. John, you walk on what? No, I don't. I sink, trust me.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for
this is a journey. It's a journey for you. It's a journey for me. It's a journey for your listeners. We just don't know when our journey is going to end. And, getting all that legislation passed, or donating $8 million, donating a kidney to a stranger, building a park on Long Island dedicated to those who died since 9/11. Those are great. Those are conversation pieces for when I'm gone. But the best thing that's happened to me since I can remember far back, or since 9/11, is the friendships I've made. Mm-hmm. And nothing compares to that love, that bond. When I got hurt and I spent 11 weeks in the hospital, the only one who was allowed in my room was my mother. Once in a while, one of my sisters snuck in. But no coworkers, no childhood best friends. I was embarrassed. I didn't want to be bothered. I hated the world. And I had to apologize to them. But then I took my childhood best friends, which I can count on one hand, and introduced them to my 9/11 best friends, which I can count on one hand. And now those two groups are best friends. And we don't say goodbye. We never say goodbye, whether if we're on the phone or we're texting or we're on Zoom or we meet in person, wearing a mask, being responsible. We say, I love you. And if you want to be part of that circle, you got to say, I love you. Because I'm not saying goodbye to anybody, because that could be that last goodbye, and I never want to say goodbye. this is true. This is my will. My tombstone, because I am going to be cremated, but I'm going to have a tombstone. My tombstone's going to say he tried. That's it. No date of birth, no date of passing, no name, no something religious underneath. And people are going to walk by my gravesite and go, who the is he tried? And I'm going to know I died trying the best I could in challenging humanity.
That's beautiful. It really is. It's really amazing, really beautiful. I have to check the time. Okay, we've got 15 minutes left to finish up my questions. And I could talk to you all day. I could definitely talk to you all day. That's not good for the interview. So I wanted to know, obviously a lot of people know that Jon Stewart has helped with the activism work and with the 9/11 first responders. So I wanted to know how did that happen? How did that come about? Did he just reach out to you, or?
Yeah. First of all, Jon Stewart's a stalker. That's all he does is stalk me. Listen, I talk to John daily. We became friends, and I'm blessed, not because he's a celebrity. I'm blessed because, the only thing that separates me and Jon Stewart is $100 million. And he sucked as an actor. I tell him that all the time. So any movie that he was ever in sucked. But he's also the best sit-down comedian ever that can articulate and use satire to address a serious issue. And he's gifted. And I've never met anybody who is so smart on their feet. And he makes everybody look like they're moving in slow motion. His gift is amazing. In 2010, Jon asked me to come on the show. And he called me. And he said, John Feal, check this out. This is Jon Stewart. You're going to come on my show tonight. We're going to make fun of Republicans. We're going to embarrass them, and we're going to help you get the bill passed. And I was like, and I said, sir, if I ever write a book, I'll come on your show, but I can't come on your show. And he said, what do you mean you can't come on my show? I said, I'm going to be in D.C. I'm leaving now. I got to finish what I started. I got 2.5, 3 days left before they go on vacation, and then we lose this bill, and it's got to start all over next year. And he's like, takes a pause, and he goes, wow, a man of integrity. I like that. But check this out. Give me 4 guys, because I'm assuming you're worth 4 guys, and I'll dedicate the whole show to them tonight. And I did. I gave him 4 guys. I vetted them. And if you ever watch that segment in 2010, he put 4 guys on that show, and he dedicated the whole show to them. And they each got $5,000 gift bags and swag from Jon Stewart. And then we kept in touch because 2 days later we got a bill passed. I almost got arrested, which was comical. And then, when we got the bill passed the first time, there was no cancer in it. So I asked Jon to do a video, and he did a video to help get cancer added to our bill. Then I petitioned the Scientific Technical Advisory Committee, and I threatened everybody. And we got 4 cancers added to the bill. Now we have 68 cancers. But I started doing other things with Jon, like in the veteran community. And, Jon took me to the Warrior Games up at West Point. And it's the Olympics for those who are severely handicapped, no limbs, people with no arms and legs playing volleyball. And to see these Olympics of these heroes was truly the most humbling thing I've ever been part of. To see these men and women who served our country to participate in these kind of events with no limbs was the most amazing thing I've ever witnessed in my life. And then in 2015, Jon came back. Jon never went to D.C. in 2010, but in 2015, he started coming to D.C. 2019, he was coming to D.C. And we did a lot of projects before and in between all of this, and we just became friends. And listen, I've gotten a chance to meet some cool people, and I've yet to see anybody match Jon Stewart. Somebody of that stature, who's such low maintenance, knowing that I'm low maintenance and that I am small and insignificant in so many ways to other people, is truly that journey I spoke about before in friendships. And I just about a month ago I filmed with Spike Lee,
Wow.
and Spike's got a documentary coming out on HBO for 9/11, and it was originally supposed to be a 2 hour documentary. It's now going to be like a 4-part 2 hour episode documentary.
Wow.
And after filming with Spike for a few hours, we now became friends because Spike's a lot like John, and I think I attract people like that. And those are people that actually roll their sleeves up and get involved in issues where they don't need the cameras and the spotlights. And, John and I have done so many interviews together on Fox, CNN, Good Morning America. And, the banter back and forth with the humor. John gets my humor because John knows I use that humor to mask my own pain.
Yeah.
I see that suffering every day. And I need that release. But I can call John now and say, yo, man, I had a shitty day. And he'll say, suck it up, buttercup. Or, he'll call me up and complain. And I'll say, you're a whining little Jew, and we joke around with each other. And that's what friendship's all about. But even with the guys, it's funny because all my guys, I suck with remembering people's names. And everybody got a nickname. So, my guys in D.C., one guy's name was Shrek. One guy's name was Angry Bird. One guy's name was Taggleberry, because I didn't remember the names. My nickname from the group was Rain Man. But John saw how we were all interacting, and John's like, I want a nickname. I said, I don't know. You're John Stewart. What do you want me to call you? He said, no, give me a nickname. I said, don't make me do this. And he's like, I want a nickname. And in front of everybody, I said, your nickname is Colbert. And then he kicked me in the shin.
That's funny. Well, I'm running short on time, but I wanted to conclude with, you talk about the people that you've become friends with, and it seems like what divides them from other people is they don't just talk about it, they do something, they act. It's everybody cares, everybody wants to do something, and everybody can complain about things that they don't like, but it takes somebody really special to get out there and do things. So what I wanted to ask is, besides donating to the FealGood Foundation, which I'm not saying you shouldn't do, definitely, do that as well. But what can average people like me, what else can they do to help the kind of organizing work that you're doing?
No, everybody donate. No, it's kidding. Here's what I loved about the last 16 years. I've been able to donate about $8 million. And I never once said donate to us. I never put something in the mailbox and said, please donate. I think our body of work speaks for itself.
It does.
And I'm proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
We used to do a sit-down gala. We ended that a few years ago. But just because of our body of work, I'm so proud of the people that I surrounded myself with. But we're going to introduce legislation at the end of this month on March 23rd in D.C. for the burn pits, for the men and women who protect us 24/7. And we're going to ask everybody to go to warfighters2021.com. The website's almost done.
Okay.
And it's going to give everybody marching orders to call their members of Congress, to call their senators, and say, support this piece of legislation that's going to save the lives of these veterans. So here's the thing. Americans, we are programmed to say, thank you for your service. You say it all the time. I say it all the time. And we're not saying it maliciously, but we're programmed to say thank you for your service, because you're that 3% of Americans who have served in the military. Hey, thank you for your service. Okay, but what do you want to eat? But it's shallow. It's condescending. and it hurts. Thank you for your service, but more importantly, thank you for your sacrifice. And as a veteran, as a 9/11 responder, as a kidney donor, as a philanthropist, as a professional pain in the ass, I feel I could do better. And I want to thank them by helping get this legislation passed. So when we were walking the halls of Congress to get the 9/11 stuff done, we were introduced to a young lady named Rosie Torres from Burn Pit 360. And she said, will you help me? And it was just like the Michigan firefighters. And I said, absolutely. And then I asked John, and he was like, dude, I already said at the press conference, I'll follow you wherever you go. I said, well, we got a big fight ahead of us. He goes, let's do it. So now we're engaged, we're involved, and we're not only trying to get legislation passed, we want to change the environment and the culture, the way the VA and the military treat these men and women. Mm-hmm. We want to be game changers, and we're capable of that. But it's going to take the American people. It's going to take the American people, like we did with 9/11, to get involved, to call their members of Congress, to call their senators. And we will give that information on that website where you just click on a button, you'll find your member of Congress or senator, and then you can say whatever you want. Hey, Senator Poo-Poo Head, you're stupid. Support veterans.
All right. Well, I am going to email you after this to get make sure that I've got the name of the bill and everything so I can put it in the description of this video. And so that way I can encourage others when I share this video to make sure that they do that. But what you said about shifting perspectives, your work and my work relate, and that's why I was so excited to talk to you about it, because that's kind of, there are all these specific, subtopics of things that I try to advocate about in the disability community, but overall, it's got to be a cultural shift. It's a perspective shift. It's recognizing the value of every human being, not just based on, money or their ability to, work or whatever, but value as a human being, that's different. And, I hear what you're saying about there needing to be a shift in perspective about vets and about first responders and about the work that you do and what they do. So,
well, before we go, this country's only about 246 years old, give or take a year. We're very immature. It's kind of like, as a country, it's our sweet 16. But we're evolving. Mm-hmm. And it seems state or local federal governments aren't evolving with us. And a lot of old, middle-aged, cranky white people don't want to evolve out of fear of losing power or losing money. And I don't care who's listening, because it's the truth. And they're afraid of change. We are most successful, and this is proven, whether you're a team, whether you're a sports team, whether you're a corporation, whether you're a government, we are more successful when we are diversity. When there is diversity, and when that team is diversified, where there is different ideas and different cultures and different ways of thinking that are melded into one, you are successful. And that's why when I brought my people down to DC, we were diversified, and we were a diverse, different group of people. And we went to DC as strangers, and we left as a family. And if we could do that on the small scale, we could do that as a country. We have more things in common than we don't. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem. We live in a society, because Twitter or TV or the 24-hour news cycle told us to blame the other side for everything that's wrong. We point fingers, we blame everybody. And here's the thing. This is why we're fat and out of shape, because when you point and say, I hate you, it's your fault, you don't fit my narrative, you don't burn calories, and you can dismiss somebody. But when you stop and you listen and you try to have a conversation, the difficult conversation, then you start to burn calories and you actually get skinny. It's that simple. You're killing two birds with one stone there. You're learning, you're getting knowledge, and you're getting in shape because you got engaged and you wanted to become diversified and you wanted to evolve with this country. You know, I'm 54 years old. I got you probably pegged around 35, right?
Fine.
Okay, here's the thing. In 20, 30, 40, 50 years when we're gone, this country's going to look totally different. And everybody who thinks it's not going to, you're in a rude awakening. There'll be more women in power because when there's women in power at the local, state, or federal level, shit gets done. And it gets done on time.
Thank you.
That is fact. It's fact.
That was awesome. You've covered so much ground. And it's 6 o'clock right now, and my daughter's about to leave, and it's going to end up interrupting the video. Oh, but I'm going to call her down here after I stop the recording. But it's going to go over by a couple more minutes than I intended, but I just want to ask one last thing. Is there any, if you could pass down a lesson to everybody, not just based on, you know, your experiences with the 9/11, not based on any one thing particular, but just your life, your experiences. If there was one lesson that you could pass down to everybody, what would you like to teach people? What would that lesson be about in a shortened, summarized version?
I'll make this simple for you. Listen before you speak. Listen before you speak. Listen before you speak cures so many problems. We as a country, as an individual, as a government, we react to things when you should be responding to things. When you react, it's usually an emotional knee-jerk reaction, and you're using your emotions, and that might be successful 5% of the time at best. But when you stop and listen and respond to something and make it simple so that the people that are around you or following you or supporting you, you make them understand it at your level. And don't ask them to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. And it's that simple. We can live, you know, everybody tells me I'm crazy because I have this conversation with my friends all the time. I truly believe that we can go back to September 12th, 2001. And I truly believe we can bottle that humanity, that empathy, that patriotism, that spirit of Americana and the human being. The true spirit of the human being, the true spirit is to give of yourself, but it's also to feel another human being's emotion. If you're sad right now, Kurt, I'm sad for you. If you're happy, I'm happy for you. And that's how we should be treating each other. And that's how we should go forward. But yet, there's a part of this fraction of this country that they make this seem bigger than it is, but it's not. It's a small fraction. And they're going to go away. They're either going to disappear, go back under the rocks, or be eradicated, because I truly believe that good will always triumph over evil.
I believe it too. And you make it seem possible when you articulate it like that. And being through what you've been through and seeing what you've seen, I would listen to you more than I would listen to somebody that hadn't been through that and hadn't seen that. You witnessed it, so you know it can happen. So I have to wrap up. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The meeting, yeah, I'm gonna stop the video, and I'm gonna ask you a couple more questions so that I can take notes to put in the description to share with the viewers about the bills that they should be keeping an eye out for and so forth. But yeah, thank you so much, and say bye to the viewers.
Bye, everybody.
John, Feal, everybody. All right, bye-bye.